Welcome back to Prophy Plays. So we're going to be picking up with the story of Mese Kinson, which we are running using the Cepheus engine and Covetous Poets solo GM guide. So last time when we left Mese, he was in the hospital doing very badly. Uh, and, and that he had been hit with this biological weapon that had been um, deployed against him personally by this George Waters, who's formerly of the Navy and has apparently gone a bit crazy, right? But he was saved by Marasunas, who took him to the hospital, where I had no idea how I was going to save him. Uh, well, anyway, after that session, I did a little bit of looking up, and uh, something that I forgot is that he's in the hospital. They have medicine, right? So what we can do is have the doctors there, right, administer medicine that stop the progress of whatever this biological weapon was, and then he takes some time to recover. Based on kind of how he was doing, uh, I asked him to take about 3 days, right, for him to recover at this point, right? So well, that's what we're going to do, right? So I have kind of my notes here about doctors administering medicine is going to stop the progression of the weapon. It takes about 3 days in the hospital to recover, right? And then he can be released. Now, here I did kind of decide to just fiat that, yeah, they have medicine here because I don't think Misa's story is over yet, right? So that is the decision here that I've made. So let's head back over to the Covetous Poet Guide, and we're going to roll up our next scene. So we are still in Act One. So we have not yet made contact with the big plot that was determined a few sessions ago. And so instead, what we need to do now, okay, I'm flipping the wrong way. Okay, here's what I need. Right. So we're going to go ahead and flip over here. So we are still doing event scenes, right? So the first thing I need to do is roll 2d6 and then have that tell me, right, put my d6, there they are. So I'll roll these 2d6. That's going to tell me what kind of event is happening in the scene. So it's number 7, right? So let's see, number 7 in the event scene chart. So the PC is asked to help or see a reason to get involved. So that's the event. So asked to help. Okay, now the other elements that I'm going to need an action, I'm going to need a thing, I'm going to need a plot device, an opposition, and a location. All right, so let's go ahead and roll all of those things on our sci-fi tables here. All right, so opposition first. All right, so this is a D100 table, so I'll go ahead and roll that. I'll just read top to bottom. So it's 3, 2. So 32 would be our opposition is a gang, thugs, or your own employer or mentor. So opposition is the gang, or thugs, or an employer or mentor. Okay, at the moment, Meeks doesn't really have an employer or mentor. He left the scouts at the beginning of our story, right? So I'm guessing it's probably going to be gang or thugs, something like that. All right, especially because this is a fairly, not entirely lawless, but a fairly law-light planet. Motivations, we don't need one of those. Themes, we don't need one of those. Complications, nope, don't need that. Locations, yes, so we do need a location. So here I'll read from left to right. Right, so we've got 0, 5, 8. So 058 gives me a balcony. All right, so it's going to happen on a, there will be a balcony involved at some point. All right, next thing, action. I do need an action, so let's go ahead and roll again. Action number 252. So action number 252 is to defend. Well, that certainly lines up with being asked to help. Then sci-fi things. So let's see, what's the thing? Again, left to right. Okay, it looks like 462. 462 would be light speed technology. So it'd be like jump drives, that kind of thing. And then finally, we need a plot device. There we go. Sci-fi plot devices, and we'll roll for that. Let's try rolling again. That's kind of an odd roll. 393. All right, turning to 393. Oh, there we go. So hitchhiking the galaxy. Characters need to rent a ride on a spaceship, perhaps to get to an illegal location or through a blockade. So hitchhiking the galaxy, well, actually, that makes sense. I actually like where this is going. Hitchhiking the galaxy. Right, so I think now is actually the time for Mies to get involved with the bigger story. Right, so one of the things that we know is happening in the background that Mies has not yet encountered is that there are these pirates that are in right this area around Hadarana, where Mises left the scouts and just kind of happened to be on this planet because that's where the scout base was when he left. Right? So we know that these pirates have developed some kind of artificial intelligence technology that has gone rogue and has relocated itself right to a much more populous, much more technologically advanced planet where it's going to start causing problems. So putting all that together then. So he is asked for help, right? Okay, so lightspeed technology and hitchhiking the galaxy clearly go together. So it's time for him to jump away from Hadarana to go somewhere else, right? So the question then is going to be, who is asking him for help? And this also would tie into how far along are things? Because one of the things that is a reality of this universe is that information doesn't travel faster than people do, right? So that is everything is limited by our jump ship's abilities. Right? So that's why we have jump ships are often used basically as mail carriers. It's electronic mail a lot of the time, but they're basically used as mail carriers to go from one place to another. And so I think what has happened is that now the news has started to spread that there is this AI technology that is causing problems. So just looking at my map here, now I had previously decided that the AI was going to be making its way right from Hadarana here, where we're starting, right up toward Pythos, because that is a very advanced planet. I see its tech level is a B, which is fairly high, although interestingly not quite as high as tech level C at tentacles, but whatever. But Pathos also has the benefit of being home to a Class A starport, right? So it's a fairly advanced starport here, fairly large population, right? So this is some place where, like, if you wanted to start making an impact, this is a good place to be, right? So that being the case, what we believe is happening is the AI is transferring itself onto ships, moving from Hadarana to Mentorak, Tentacles, Piathos. So that is what it's doing. But people have to be figuring this out, is the thing. And I suspect this AI program is going to be trying to not be caught. Yeah. So, how do we find out about it? Who's asking us for help? Okay. Right. So, my thought is, right, that the scouts have gotten wind of this, but it really doesn't fall under their purview. So I'm thinking that Mace is going to be getting a message, right, from his former employers, that is the scouts, to let him know that this thing has shown up. Right, so I think maybe it becomes evident after all, the high tech level here in Tentacles would be enough that they might be able to detect right this AI program there, and they realize that there's something off. So I'm guessing this is probably where we found out that something odd right was going on. Right, so I'm going to go ahead. We'll go with that. Right. So channel goals we figured it out, but then it's going to take a couple weeks right for that news to get to Hadarana. Right. So I'm going to say that that's what's happening here. So I'm going to go ahead and just roll a little bit. Where did I have that? There they are. Okay. Right. So what I'm thinking is he's going to be getting a message, right? Uh, that has recently arrived here in Hadarana. Okay. Right. Although, I mean, honestly, he probably has a little bit of time. So I'm guessing that this scene happens not immediately after he's walking out of the hospital. So he has a few days in the hospital. These are days that the AI can be traveling and the people can be finding out about it. So my guess is that when things started, that wasn't like when the pirates were making the AI. The AI was already established and was already moving, right? So he left, takes a couple weeks for that new. Well, I guess that would be something that probably be planned ahead of time. So the other scout base would probably know. They know that he had left, so they know that he is somebody that they can trust. So they're going to send a message right shortly after he leaves. So he's in the hospital for about half of a week. He hangs out for another week and a half or so. Right. Where I'm just going to say not a whole lot interesting is happening in terms of the story, so we're just going to cut that out. So then the next thing that's going to happen is that he's going to get this message, right? So I'm wondering, like, is this something that is brought kind of by hand, or is it something that is electronically transferred? So I'm just going to ask the question. I think it's an even chance, right? So 1 through 50, I think it says is a yes, yes, right? So is it electronically transmitted? Right? Okay, and the answer is yes, right? So that means he doesn't really have a chance to ask questions about it or anything like that because the people who sent the message are 2 weeks away, right? So he gets this message, right, from a former, somebody that outranked him in the scouts, that kind of thing, right? So former commander or something along those lines, right? That informs him that there is this issue where there's this AI program that's weird that has shown up. It really doesn't fall under the purview of the scouts to do anything about it, but they thought that like they would like him to actually come and to be involved in some way with solving the problem. Okay, so now we need to bring in the opposition. And so the opposition here would be thug, a gang or thugs. So what actually comes to my mind here is the pirates that created the thing. Now we know the pirates that created the thing uh, we know that it messed them up badly, right, when it was escaping. So the pirates are not really a huge threat, right, on this planet or in the system of Hadarana right now. So, nonetheless, they find out. Okay, I want to double check this. So, do they find out about this message? I think that's very likely, right? So, like, they have a good presence here, right? So, rolling 75 or less. Oh, I got an 82. So, they actually don't find out about the message. So, then how are they the opposition? Well, okay, they're in bad shape. So, I'm going to say the most likely thing then is so Mies, he finds passage, right? He's not going to be able to. Oh, actually, he has a lot of money, doesn't he? I'd say like 58,000 or something like that. Um, do I have the second page of his? No, I don't. Okay, so I want to say like 58,000 or so credits to his name that he hadn't yet spent. So just checking to see if I've written this down somewhere. No, apparently not. All right. So, so that's what's happening, right? Uh, Zemeus is hopping on a transport. Um, so the question is, like, can he find a transport from here? Now, he's not going to be able to make it all the way to Hadarana in one jump, all the way to Gathos in one jump, nor is that necessarily where he's going, because I think that at this point, he only knows that it made it to Tentacles. So that would be a jump of two to move here, but kind of the way that the routes are working, it makes sense, right, for it to be a jump of one. So just going from Hadarana to Mentorok being the next place. Right, so what is happening? Right, so he gets on a ship. Right, they start leaving the system to head toward Mentorok. But our desperate pirates, right, show up and they are going to cause problems for us, right? So I think that is what's happening, right? So the balcony here, I'm not figuring out a way to make the balcony fit in terms of a location. Um, I suppose we might be able to interpret that as there's somewhere that Mies can observe, right, the battle as it's going on. So the question then is, how would he participate in this battle? Well, one, uh, he has at least some gunnery ability, right? So I guess that would mean that he might possibly, right, be able to take up some guns or something like that. So let's figure out what kind of ship he's going to be on. So let's go ahead and flip through here. Pretty sure ships follow this, yes. So there's our off-world travel tables and everything. I want to find about the various types of ships. These are kind of the standard ships right here. Right, so odds are good that he's going to be traveling Um, let's see, courier maybe, although that tends to be more focused on. Like, a lot of these things are more military. So he's really going to be more on maybe like a merchant liner. That would make sense. Right. So this is really set up for passengers largely. Yeah, so it says it's a popular method of interstellar transport along major trade routes. So this makes perfect sense, right? So then he's going to be on this merchant liner, right? And okay, it has a performance of jump one, right? So then it is going to be able to just make a single jump at a time, right? So from sector to sector. So it's definitely going to that next sector of Mentorok first. There it can refuel or pause for a minute and then continue to channel bills. Okay. All right. Although typically these things will actually want to stop for a week or so, right, unload whatever cargo they might have had that would be here at this location, load up new cargo if there is any, switch out mail, that kind of thing, right? So what's going to happen here is that he's traveling, right, from Hadarana to uh, Mentorok, yeah, Mentorok here, right? So that is what we're doing. This isn't much of a starport. You see, it's a starport E, so it's kind of a frontier starport. So can land there, I suppose, but it's not real high tech. All right, so we have on the one hand a merchant trader. So the things that I need to know here about the merchant liner, which has six hull and six structure to it. And so that's an important note. In terms of its, I guess, okay, it has three hard points, 3 tons allocated to fire control, but has no weapons installed. Oh dear, we could be in trouble. All right. So on the other hand, right, so we have, say, a raider here would make sense, but I think it should be hurt in some way. Right. After all, and these are the pirates that have been, I guess, I'm just going to use the term nerfed, right, by this AI. So they're still trying to rebuild. So I'm going to say that there do have some issues here. So they have 6 triple turrets armed with beam lasers. So triple turrets with beam lasers. So we've got, okay, so this is us, 6 hull, 6 structure to it. Meanwhile, the raiders also have 6 hull and 6 structure. And they actually have, what is it? It's a total of six. Is it 6 triple turrets? Yeah, 6 triple turrets. Just making some notes here. Um, beam lasers. Right. I think it may be time for us to do a little bit of space combat then. I also need to double check kind of what page that's on. Oh, I need to tilt it. Okay, so page, I think it's around page 5 or so is where we'd have our. Okay, combat, space combat right here. So 148 is where we're looking. Okay, so switch to page 99, and then we'll have to flip forward some. I'm kind of excited about this. I don't do space combat very often, right, which is kind of odd, right? But I tend to run more personal stories, so we don't run into space combat very often, right? So we determine the range at which the encounter begins, right? So in this case, I guess they're going to be a fairly long range. All crew members are assigned to a position on board their vessel, right? So that means then we have to decide. Okay, so let's ask the question here, right? So no, our strategy here is obvious, and we're just going to run. So the question is, right, does Mies actually have some kind of position on this uh, ship, right? I think that's actually very unlikely, given that his only real skill that might be helpful here, like when you look at his abilities, right, he has a little bit of ability with things like comms and electronics, so and and certainly has some piloting, but I would think that they would have a professional pilot, right? So he could step in as need be. He has a little bit of gunnery, but there's no guns on the ship, right? So I think it's extremely unlikely that he's fulfilling any of these kinds of roles. That he's really just a passenger. So 93, that's a no, right? So he doesn't have any kind of role that he would be given here. He's basically told, go to your cabin, we'll handle it, right? So then the question is, what's going to happen outside of the cabin, where now we're having this all happen, okay? Right. So, Right, so the referee, that's me, I guess, determines which characters are aware of their opponents at the start of the battle. Well, I think it's obvious that the raiders, the pirates, are aware of their opponents. Right? Vessels are or their opponents are considered to get an automatic 12. Okay, so that means that the raiders are going to go first. Okay, so then what is going to happen is that the okay, let's look at the different actions we can take. Right, so I think that what I'm basically going to do is have two things happening. Right, so one is that we're going to have the pirates are going to be trying to attack and disable our ship so they can board it. That's their goal, right? So in that case, so what does this action look like? Right, so we're looking at an attack position. Okay, so we can take one minor and one. Oh, you can take up to three minor actions per turn. If you lose a significant action, normally you would take one minor and one significant. Right. All right. So let's see. So attack. Here we go. All right. So the gunner would attack by making a turret weapons or bay weapons skill check, difficulty determined by range, adding any computer targeting, sensor targeting, and so on. All right, so I think I'm just going to try to run this as simply as possible. We're going to say that they're, let's say, medium distance when the pirates show up. Let's just do it that way to keep things simple. Right, they have beam laser weapons that tells us this is average difficulty, so this is actually good as far as that goes. So let's go ahead and roll that. Right, so they need to roll an 8 total. Let's say that they have some skill, and they are pirates. I'm going to add 2 to whatever I roll. Yeah, that's a 9, so that is actually a hit. Right, so we roll a hit. So what is the next thing that happens? Right, so, alright, we roll the attack. Damage is resolved after all attacks have been made in vessel's turn. Missiles do not impact the same round they're launched. Okay, well, this is a beam weapon. Alright. Alright, so, although they're triple, aren't they? The triple turrets, I would guess, so then you get 3 attacks on each of them? Because there are 6 triple turrets. That's a lot. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and roll them. So it's 1. Okay, second one. So if I roll 6 or higher, yeah. So 2 hits, 3 hits. That's a miss. Oh, 4 hits, 5 hits. Oh wait, and 5 hits and a miss. Okay, so that would be our 6. Okay, so then I need to figure out how damage works. All right, so damage, damage, damage. No reactions. Nope. These are boarding rules. Damage. There we go. So how does damage work? All right. Take a number of Uh, systems take a variable number of hits before being destroyed, depending on the system in question. Ship can endure 1 point of hull damage per 50 tons. Okay, well, we already know we have 6 hulls, 6 systems. Right, so what is going to happen then in terms of damage? Let's flip. All right. Right, so we've got here. Okay, well, I guess how much damage does that weapon do? Oh, that's probably back in the previous chapter where they talk about weapons. Let's check. Yeah. Yeah, so here we've got, okay, that's those are bay weapons. Turret weapons, okay. So here we've got beam lasers, so each one does 1d6 damage. So we've got a total then of 5d6 that we'd be rolling for how much damage, and that would tell us how many hits we get. Okay, got it. Okay, I'm getting this all to make sense now. All right, so we're going to roll 5d6. That'll give us a damage amount. Okay, so we've got 46 here, so let's just go ahead and roll those. We'll add them up, so it gives me a total of, it says 13, and then roll one more. 14. So we've got 14 total damage. So that'd be 3 single hits. So what do these hits do? I'm going to go ahead and drag this over. I need a couple dice down here for what I'm rolling. All right. So we've got 3 single hits. So let's see what happens. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and roll this. All right. So 5. 5, it says, is turret. All right. So a random turret is hit. Well, we know that like we don't actually have turrets, so it'd be hitting the hard points. One of the hard points gets hit. To damage the tracking mechanism. All right. And then we have another second hit. Oh, There we go. 5 again. Right, so I guess we have another hard point getting hit, and then 5 again. We lucked out because they just like hit where our weapons would be, and we don't have any weapons, so it's not actually really causing problems. I guess the turret and all weapons in it would be destroyed, assuming they all fired at the same one, right? But that isn't really that bad. Okay, so now what we're going to be doing on our ship, because we can't actually, you know, do anything in terms of attacking, we're going to try to jump. And so that is going to be our hope, right? So I'm going to flip back here a minute, right? Double check to make sure that's something we can do as a combat action, right? So see what that takes. Okay, so our goal here is to calculate. Okay, so first we want to calculate our jump plot, right? So it's normally an easy education-based navigation check, so you'd give a +4 to it. And plus our navigator is going to be reasonably good, so I give him a total of +6. Right? So hastening it to fit within one space combat turns, impose a -1. Oh, okay, that's awesome. All right, so in order to do this, to calculate that jump plot, so here we go. We're going to calculate it. This would be a total of a +5, and I need to get 8. So let's go ahead and roll it. Yeah, yeah. So we got the jump plot. So then, what about making the jump? When can we do that? Line of shot, pursuit, ram, range check, reloading weapon system, repairing damage systems. I'm not worried about that at the moment. Okay. So the question is, can I? I would think that I could jump, right? Because jumping by itself doesn't necessarily take very long. All right, so let's go ahead and we're gonna try it. Although I'm going to say that we can't do that just yet because we just calculated the plotting, right? So they're still attacking us. Nobody's really changing position, relatively speaking. I'm guessing like we're trying to get away, but they're going to be able to pursue us reasonably well, right? So they're going to go ahead and make their again 6 rolls. Okay, yeah, anything 6 or more is going to be a hit. Right, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so 4 hits this time. Each of those would be a d6. So let's actually, I'm gonna bring my other d6s down here. Am I doing this wrong? Probably. All right. So 15. So with 15 damage, let's check the table to see what 15 damage is. Oh, it's 3 single hits again. So again, we roll 2d6 to find out where those hits happen. Right, so it looks like that one's on an 8. Right, so it hits our hull. Right, so it reduces the hull by 1. All right. So our hull is now down to 5. All right, roll it again. Because remember, we get 3 single hits. 9. 9, it says it hits our fuel. Right, so what does the first hit do for fuel? Causes a minor fuel leak of 1d6 tons per hour. That by itself is not necessarily going to be a problem. Right, so because we're going to be jumping here very soon. Right, and then what is the last one? 5. So 5 is a turret again. So just keep, there are hard points that don't do anything. All right, cool. So in that case, we're going to go ahead and try to make the jump, right? So let's go ahead and flip back. This is under one of the other chapters, right? So I need to flip back here. There we go. This is going to get somewhere we talk about jumping. Okay, give the jump success roll. Right, so we roll 2d6, add the following DMs. Okay, so interstellar travel. Right, so we've got our jump all calculated. So the jump plot was calculated. It was all fine, right? Uh, okay. So firing the jump drive is an average education-based engineer check, taking between 10 and 60 seconds. Oh, so yeah, that's something that easily happens within a space combat round. Space combat rounds, I believe they say, are like 10 minutes or something along those lines, right? So, okay, so we just go ahead and make that roll, and the effect, right, aids the jump success roll. All right. So in this case, if we have a reasonably good engineer, they're going to get, say, a +2 or something like that on this. So we're going to roll it, and let's hope for the best. Okay, so we've got, okay, we easily hit the 8, right? Actually, that's what we rolled, so we're at a +2, so we have an effect of 2. So then our jump success roll. So we get the effect of that engineering check, so we get +2 on it. Our jump pod is not out of date. We don't have, that jump drive didn't take any hits. We're not using unrefined fuel. So I think we're okay here. Okay. All right. Um, Although the question is, are we out at a jump point or not? Oh, that's a good question. Right, so are we at the jump point? Because would they attack us closer? They'd probably attack us closer to the planet, probably not far enough away from the planet, right? So I'm going to say it's very unlikely that we're far enough to avoid that penalty. So let's go ahead and roll it. If I roll 25 or less, then we are far enough away. 30, we are not far enough away. So we are going to take a significant penalty here. All right. Well, all right. So we've got +2 -8, so it's a -6. Let's roll it and then subtract 6 from our result. We got a 1. If the result is 0 or less, the ship misjumps. If it's 8 plus, the jump is accurate. Every other result is an inaccurate jump. Okay, right, so we've got an inaccurate jump in some way. Right, so we suffer an inaccurate jump. We're going to emerge from the jump in the wrong part of the target star system. Okay, requiring some travel through space. Okay, that's not in itself a huge problem. All right, so it wasn't a missed jump, so we are in the right sector. We're 3 days away from where we wanted to be. So it's going to take some extra time to get there. All right, so I think that wraps this up pretty well. We were attacked by pirates. We had to run away from that because the liner we were on didn't have any weapon systems. And so we have arrived then, right, in the system of Montauk. It's going to take a little bit of time, right, for us to get to the planet where we're going to land and see what happens next time. So I guess that would be it for now. This is Profi signing off.